dear listener, to Midnight Murmurs Radio. Tonight, we drift into lanterns in the fog. A Halloween night mystery, a bedtime story, a sleep story, a relaxing story that will wrap around you like mist, a guided sleep meditation through the quiet corners of memory and time. Before we begin, I invite you to lie down somewhere comfortable to loosen the weight of your day. Feel your body sink into the mattress, the fabric, the breath of night. Let your shoulders fall. Let your hands rest by your sides. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold for a moment and exhale softly, as though you are releasing the last traces of daylight. This is your coziest hour, the peaceful bridge between waking and dream. Breathe in again, deeper, slower. With every breath, imagine fog rolling gently through the corners of your mind, quieting thought, softening sound, blurring the noise of the world outside. Tonight, we journey to a small lakeside town in New England. The year is 1963, and Halloween has come dressed in gray. The fog has arrived early, swallowing the streets, muffling the sound of footsteps and laughter. The houses, lined with carved pumpkins and flickering candles, seem to float like islands in a sea of pale smoke. Somewhere by the water, a boy named Elias stands alone, holding a lantern close to his chest. Its warm glow trembles against his face, and in his dark eyes you can see both wonder and something like fear. They say the fog that rolls across this lake remembers every secret it has ever swallowed. On nights like this, when the veil between worlds thins, those memories rise again in the form of light. Elias had heard the stories whispered by the elders that, once long ago, the villagers sent lanterns drifting across the water to guide the spirits home. He never believed them, not really, until tonight, because as he stands on the wooden dock, the boards creaking beneath his shoes, he sees them. Dozens, maybe hundreds of faint glows shimmering through the mist, scattered across the lake like fallen stars. Some flicker red, others gold, one or two deep blue like frostbitten moonlight. Each one pulses faintly, as if alive, as if breathing. Elias steps closer to the edge, his reflection stretching beside him, distorted by the rippling water. He can feel the chill through his sweater, the dampness of fog on his skin, the sound of distant bells echoing from the church tower. 9 chimes, each one softer than the last, fading into the rhythm of his breath. The world is calm, almost peaceful. But beneath that calm is something magnetic, something that hums just below the surface. The lanterns begin to move, drifting toward one another, forming slow, swirling paths. Elias whispers, "Who's there?" His voice vanishes into the mist. Only silence answers, thick and endless. Then a ripple just beneath the surface, a glow brighter than the rest, stirs, as though something or someone has awakened. He leans forward, and for a heartbeat, he thinks he sees a face in the water, pale and soft eyes closed, as if sleeping. He stumbles back, blinking, but the fog folds over the image like a curtain, erasing it. Somewhere behind him, the reeds rustle, though there's no wind. The air smells faintly of smoke and rain-soaked wood. It is a smell that belongs to old places, to memories that refuse to fade. You, dear listener, can imagine the scene now. The calm water, the ghostly lanterns, the slow heartbeat of a town that lives between the living and the lost. The night hums with both comfort and unease, a delicate balance between the peaceful and the haunted, and yet there is beauty here, magical, calming, timeless. Evelyn Blackwood's voice lowers to a whisper. When we walk through fog, we see not the world as it is, but as it remembers itself. Tonight, we walk that memory together, through calm water, old whispers, and the soft glow of forgotten souls. So breathe again, in and out. Let the lake's silence cradle you. Let the mist become your blanket. Feel your heartbeat slow, your thoughts settle like dust beneath the moon. The story's your companion now, the coziest of ghosts beside your pillow. As Elias stands, surrounded by drifting lights, he senses that he is not alone, but whatever waits in the fog is not here to harm. It is here to remember. To be remembered. The lanterns continue to float, each one carrying a story, a name, a life once lived, and as they glow brighter, Elias feels his eyelids grow heavy, his breath soft, his pulse steady. The world fades into silver, the fog deepens. The night sighs, and Evelyn's voice, warm and low, follows you into the dark. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. Asterisk, the fog thickens as the night deepens, curling low along the water's edge like a living thing, whispering against the reeds and the broken stones of the dock. Elias stands still, lantern trembling in his small hands, the flame swaying like a heartbeat in a fragile glass cage. He should have gone home long ago, but the lights on the lake hold him there, their glow pulling him deeper into silence. He feels as though the world around him has stopped breathing. The only sound is the slow lap of water against the shore and the faint echo of something distant, a chime, a sigh, maybe a name. Evelyn Blackwood's voice carries through the haze, low and slow. In this relaxing story, dear listener, the night is a blanket, and every shadow hides a story. This is your bedtime story, your sleep story, a guided sleep meditation meant to carry you gently through the veil. Breathe in the stillness. Exhale. The world, you are safe here, wrapped in mist, drifting with Elias under the watch of 1,000 quiet lanterns. The boy moves closer to the water, peering into the pale reflection of his own light. For a moment, he sees nothing. Then, beneath the rippling surface, a shape moves, faint, silver, human. His breath catches. It's as if someone is floating just below. Eyes closed, face serene, the same bluish glow emanating from their chest, where a lantern rests against their heart. Elias stumbles back, nearly dropping his light, his heart pounding against the silence. When he dares to look again, the vision is gone. Only fog remains, and the faint circle of his lantern reflected back. He whispers, "Who are you?" But the fog does not answer. It moves instead, curling upward like smoke, and in it, faint images, ship doorways, old houses, the shimmer of rain on cobblestones. The town itself seems to be breathing with him. He can feel it beneath his feet, as though the land remembers his name. Evelyn's voice hums softly. Sometimes memory clings to a place like dew upon the grass. Sometimes it waits for someone brave enough to see it. The boy turns his gaze toward the distant hill, where the outline of the old Marlowe house stands, its windows dark, its roof half sunken, its chimney leaning like a finger pointing toward the moon. He knows their stories. Everyone, though, is. They say that decades ago, when the lake flooded after a terrible storm, dozens of villagers were lost. The Marlowe family, who lived near the water, lit lanterns to guide the missing home, but the storm never ended, and neither did the lights. Since then, every Halloween night, the fog rises, and with it, the lanterns. No one dares to watch them. No one but Elias. He feels drawn there, to that house on the hill, to the echo of something waiting to be found. He starts walking, his shoes thudding softly on the wet ground. Each step echoes as though he's walking through time itself. Along the way, he passes the remnants of old fences, the skeletons of trees, and faint traces of laughter long since gone. His lantern glows brighter, guiding him through the mist. The air grows colder, but also strangely soothing, the kind of cold that clears the mind and sharpens the senses. You, dear listener, can imagine it, now the soft hush of night, the fog curling like silk, the light of the lantern painting golden circles on the path ahead. There is something coziest and peaceful in this journey, a calm born from the unknown. The house looms closer. Its windows are cracked, the porch boards warped, yet one window flickers faintly from within, as though a candle has been waiting all these years. Elias stops, his breath fogging in front of him. He hears something, footsteps, or maybe the slow beat of a heart, not his own. The fog presses closer, and for a moment the boy thinks he hears a voice. It is faint, melodic, almost kind, a woman's whisper. Come home. He turns sharply, lantern raised, but there's no one there, only the mist moving like slow water around him. Evelyn's tone softens to a near whisper. Fear and comfort are neighbors here. They live side by side, like light and shadow, and in the space between them, stories are born. The flame in Elias's lantern dances higher, casting shadows that move along the house's faded walls. He steps onto the porch. The wood creaks, but does not break. The door stands slightly ajar. A faint scent of rain and candle wax lingers inside. He hesitates, breath steady, heart slow, and then he pushes the door open. The sound echoes softly into the night, like the sigh of an old memory awakening. Inside, darkness waits, not cruel, but expectant. He lifts the lantern, and the fog follows him in, curling gently around the threshold, as though it, too, is curious. Evelyn whispers, "One last time, follow the light. Dear dreamer, the story will keep you safe." As the flame flickers, allow your thoughts to soften, your breath to slow, your body to rest. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The door closes behind Elias with a sound that feels more like a sigh than a creak, as though the house itself exhales after years of silence. The air inside is still and thick with the scent of dust and damp wood, a perfume of time long past. His lantern casts trembling rings of gold along the faded wallpaper, where patterns of ivy twists and fade into shadow. Every corner breathes with memory. Every board beneath his feet seems to whisper in the voice of someone who once walked here. He takes a slow breath, the kind you might take when standing at the edge of a dream, unsure if you are awake. Outside, the fog presses softly against the windows, its pale fingers blurring the world beyond. It feels like the house floats within a cloud, cut off from everything but the faint rhythm of his own heart. Evelyn Blackwood's voice hums low, deep as twilight. In this bedtime story, dear listener, we travel through quiet corridors of memory. This is your sleep story, your guided sleep meditation. Let every sound you hear, the boards, the breath, the soft hum of fog become part of your peace. The boy moves slowly, the lantern light brushing across framed photographs that hang crooked along the wall. The faces inside them are faint, almost erased, but one draws his eye. A young girl with a ribbon in her hair, standing by the same lake he knows, holding a lantern just like his. Below it, a name etched in fading ink, Clara Marlowe. He whispers the name aloud, and the sound trembles like the wick of a dying candle. For a moment, he thinks he hears movementa, faint shuffle upstairs, the whisper of fabric. He stands still, heart thudding in his chest. The house answers only with silence, the kind of silence that feels too perfect, too careful, as if something is listening. He climbs the staircase, each step groaning beneath his weight, the railing cold beneath his hand. The air grows cooler as he ascends, and the lantern's glow shrinks tighter around him. Upstairs, a long hallway stretches ahead, lined with closed doors, each one slightly ajar, as though waiting to be opened. He hesitates before the first door, presses his ear against it, and hears faint humming, soft, distant, like a lullaby sung through water. He opens it slowly. Inside, moonlight spills across the floor, though there is no moon visible outside. A rocking chair moves gently on its own, creaking with each invisible push. Beside it, a small wooden chest sits half open, revealing the faint glow of something within. Elias kneels and lifts the lid. Inside lies a tiny lantern, smaller than his palm, its flame blue and steady, though no oil burns. He watches it flicker, entranced, and feels the air grow warmer around him. Then, a voice gentle, fragile, like the memory of a whisper. You shouldn't be here. He turns, but the room is empty. Only the chair moves, slowly, rhythmically, as though unseen hands still hold it. Evelyn's voice lowers, calm as rain. Do not be afraid, dear listener. What lingers here does not wish to harm. It wishes only to be remembered. The boy sets the small lantern beside his own, their lights merging, brighter together. A wave of warmth flows through him, and for a heartbeat, he sees Hertha girl from the photograph, standing in the doorway, eyes wide and soft, the same blue light glowing from her chest. She watches him, not speaking, as though caught between wanting to reach out and fade away. Then, just as suddenly, she is gone. The light in his lantern flickers, then steadies again. Elias whispers, Clara. But the name vanishes into the air like breath on glass. Downstairs, a sound resusta, faint ringing of a bell, followed by another, then another, like footsteps of time. He descends slowly, lantern raised, each flicker of light painting new shapes on the walls. At the bottom of the stairs, he finds the source. An old clock, its hands frozen at midnight, yet the chime keeps echoing, long and slow. The sound vibrates through the floorboards, through the fog, through him. He feels it in his bones. Evelyn murmurs, "Midnight, the hour between worlds, when fog becomes memory and light becomes prayer." The boy steps closer, and for a moment the glass face of the clock clears. Reflected there are not his features, but dozens of others' faces, from the photographs, from the lanterns, from the water itself. They are watching him, not with menace, but with quiet longing. He blinks, and the vision fades. The fog outside thickens, pressing against the house as if trying to come in. The flame of his lantern sways, bending with the breath of something unseen. He whispers, "I'll help you. Tu einte sure who is speaking too." The air answers with a single sigh that sounds almost like gratitude. Evelyn's tone softens further, a velvet whisper. "The night is not cruel, dear listener. It is simply waiting. Waiting for light, for memory, for someone to listen. So close your eyes, breathe with the rhythm of the fog, and let this peaceful story cradle you." As Elias stands among the echoes of those long gone, he feels less alone than ever before. The house hums quietly around him, alive with unseen warmth. The lanterns, both his and Clara's, burn steady, golden and calm. And in that glow, time seems to stop. The world is quiet, coziest, magical serene. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. Asterisk, the fog outside thickens until it feels almost alive, pressing against the window panes, like a gentle tide of breath. Inside the old Marlowe house, Elias sits on the wooden floor beside the two lanterns, the small blue one from the chest and his own golden light. Their flames dance in quiet conversation, reflections flickering across his face. Evelyn Blackwood's voice glides like silk through the static of the night. "You've wandered far, dear listener, through the fog and the echoes of forgotten rooms. Now, breathe deeply. Let the warmth of the lanterns melt the cold from your chest. This is your sleep story, your moment of stillness between what is seen and what is remembered." Elias closes his eyes, the rhythm of her voice blending with the low hum of wind outside. Somewhere in that sound, he thinks he hears a melody faint and sweet, like the music of an old lullaby carried by the fog. It pulls him toward the back of the house, where a narrow door waits half open. Beyond it lies a corridor leading to the cellar. The air grows damp and cool, and the scent of earth rises with each step. The deeper he goes, the quieter the world becomes, until even his heartbeat feels too loud. He reaches the bottom and finds a pool of still water gathered on the stone floor, reflecting the lantern light like a second sky. Floating within it are shapes tiny, soft glimmers of blue and gold, drifting as though alive. When a canals, the reflection in the water begins to shift, forming images of the town, of the lake, of the lanterns floating across its surface on every Halloween night long ago. Evelyn whispers, "Once they lit the fog to guide home the lost. Lanterns for the missing, the forgotten, the ones who never returned." Elias watches the reflection change again, and this time he sees the girl Clara standing by the lake with her lantern, surrounded by children whose faces he recognizes from the photographs upstairs. They laugh, release their lights, and the fog carries them away, glowing softly into the distance. Then thunder breaks. The vision ripples and fades. The water grows still once more. Elias lifts his lantern and turns toward a faint glow in the corner of the cellar. There, he finds a door made of iron, half carved with words barely legible beneath the years. For those who seek the light, the handle is cold, resisting at first, then yielding with a low moan as the door opens inward. Behind it lies a small chamber, walls lined with old glass jars, each holding a tiny flicker of light, some golden, some pale blue, some barely visible. It feels like stepping into the heart of the fog itself. The air shimmers softly, thick with memory. He realizes that each light moves faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Evelyn's voice deepens, almost reverent. These are echoes, fragments of souls who lost their way, not trapped, only waiting for the warmth of remembrance. Elias feels a pull inside his chest, a quiet ache of recognition. He lifts the small blue lantern and holds it up. Its flame bends toward the jars, trembling as if in greeting. Then, one by one, the other lights begin to stir, flickering brighter, humming softly in unison. The chamber fills with a sound like wind through reeds, like breath between dreams. He closes his eyes, listening. The hum becomes a harmony, tender and sad, yet full of peace. For a moment, he feels Clara beside him again, her hand light on his shoulder, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for finding us." He opens his eyes, but she is gone, replaced by the glow of countless lanterns pulsing like stars. The fog outside the cellar window swirls, pale and luminous, and he understands that adjacent temporarily missed its light, made visible, memory made gentle. Evelyn murmurs softly, "Every story you be ever heard, every whisper in the dark, is just light searching for a name. Tonight, you've given it one." Elias sets the lanterns on the floor and steps back, watching as their glow spreads, merging with the others until the room itself becomes golden. The fog retreats, folding back into the night. Upstairs, the old house breathes again, its silence lighter now, its shadows thinner. The clock in the hallway chimes once, softly, as though marking the end of a long vigil. He walks outside, lantern in hand, into the cool air. The fog is gentler now, carrying the scent of pine and rain. Across the lake, tiny lights drift on the water, shimmering like a path toward the stars. He feels calm, grounded, safe. Evelyn's voice returns, slow and soothing. "Rest now, dear listener. You've walked through shadow and found peace in the glow. The night holds no fear, only stories waiting to be told. Let your thoughts drift with the lanterns, and as the fog settles, may your dreams be gentle. The sound fades to silence, leaving only the steady rhythm of his breath and the soft murmur of water. And beneath that calm, the night hums a song of light, forgiveness, and sleep. Asterisk, the night deepens, wrapping the town in a velvet silence, and the fog drifts like a living veil across the lake. Elias stands at the edge of the dock, lantern in hand, watching the reflection of distant lights move like gentle spirits beneath the surface. The air is cool, tinged with salt and smoke, and every sound feels slower, softer, as if the world itself were whispering. Evelyn Blackwood's voice hums through the airwaves. Once more, low and steady, in the heart of every fog lies a story that refuses to fade. Tonight, dear listener, we followed the light where memory dares to linger. Elias feels the weight of the lantern in his palm, a warmth that seems to pulse with its own heartbeat. He lowers it toward the water, and the golden glow ripples outward, joining dozens of faint lights that drift in the mist like floating stars. The scene is mesmerizing, peaceful, almost holy, yet beneath the stillness, something stirs. The water trembles. The reflection of the lanterns begins to twist and shimmer, forming shapes, faces, outlines of forgotten souls reaching up from the deep. Evelyn's voice softens, carrying both comfort and unease. Sometimes what we see in the fog is not meant to frighten us, but to remind us that we are not alone. Elias takes a step back. The lights below the surface begin to align, forming a pattern, a spiral, wide and slow, circling the dock like a silent dance. He feels drawn toward it, as if the rhythm of his breath matches the pulse of the light. Then, from somewhere in the mist, comes a faint shim like a bell tolling underwater. Another follows. The sound is not frightening. It's solemn, ancient, filled with longing. The lake begins to glow faintly from beneath, and through the milky haze, Elias sees the outline of an old boat emerging, wooden and fragile, drifting toward him. Its hull bears markings he cannot read, and at its center rests a figure, a woman, in a tattered shawl, holding a blue lantern identical to the one he found in the chest. Her face is pale, gentle, ageless. Her eyes meet his, and though she does not speak, the air between them hums with memory. Evelyn murmurs, "There are those who guide the lost, even after time forgets their names. Lantern keepers, walking between worlds." The woman nods once and gestures toward the lake. Elias hesitates, then steps onto the boat. The wood creaks softly beneath his weight. The lanterns around them float closer, circling as the boat drifts into the mist. The air grows colder. The fog thickens until shore and sky vanish, replaced by endless gray light. Within it, faint outlines appear: houses, streets, tricycles of the town as it might have been a century ago. The woman rose without sound. Her lantern glows brighter, illuminating the ghostly silhouettes of children running along the old boardwalk, their laughter muted by time. Then the scene shifts. The laughter fades, replaced by shouts, sirens, and smoke. Elias sees flames rising from the town, reflected in the fog like wounds of light. He realizes he is witnessing the fire that consumed half the lakeside in night. Tragedy whispered about, but never fully remembered. Evelyn's tone grows solemn. Every place carries its ghosts, not of fear, but of unfinished stories waiting to be heard. Elias watches as the figures fade one by one, leaving only the flicker of lanterns drifting on water, blackened by soot. The woman looks at him, sorrow deep in her gaze. She reaches out and places the blue lantern into his hands. "Carry it," she whispers, not with her voice, but within his mind. "Let them rest." As soon as he grasps the handle, the world brightens. The fog around them begins to swirl faster, drawing light from the lanterns into a single golden current that lifts the boat and carries it gently back. When Elias opens his eyes, he stands once again on the dock. The water is calm, the fog thinning. The woman and the boat are gone. Only the blue lantern remains, its flame steady and warm. Evelyn's voice drifts through the static. "You've seen what the fog remembers and what it forgives. Breathe in deeply and let the quiet settle inside you." Elias inhales. The scent of pine and lake water fills his chest. The tension in his body dissolves, replaced by stillness. Above him, the moon breaks through the mist for the first time that night, silver and pure. The lantern light glows in rhythm with his heartbeat, as if whispering, "You're home." The fog recedes further, revealing the path back to town. As he walks, Evelyn's final words in this chapter echo softly. "Every night has its mystery, every dream its keeper. Rest now, for even the fog must sleep." The sound fades, leaving only the gentle ripple of the lake and the quiet hum of peace beneath the stars. Asterisk, the night softens like a sigh, and the last veil of fog curls along the ground, folding itself into the quiet earth. Elias walks the narrow path back toward town, the blue lantern steady in his hand. Its light no longer flickers with unease, but glows with the calm of something fulfilled. The sound of his footsteps mingles with the rustle of leaves, and far away an owl calls once, then falls silent. The air is cool and gentle, and every breath carries a faint sweetness, smoke, rain, and the fading memory of fire. Evelyn Blackwood's voice returns, low and melodic. "The lanterns have led us home tonight, dear listener. Each step you take is a step away from sorrow and closer to rest." The town lies half asleep before him, houses half lost in mist, their windows dim like old dreams. He passes the bakery with its cracked sign, the iron gate of the schoolyard, the church bell tower that hasn't rung in years. Everything feels suspended, dreamlike, touched by the quiet magic that lingers after revelation. As he walks, he thinks of Clara, of the faces he saw beneath the lake, of the woman in the boat. None of them felt frightening now. They were stories, songs of the forgotten, longing to be remembered just once more. Evelyn whispers through the airwaves, "In every haunted place there is tenderness waiting to be seen. Ghosts are not always warnings, they can be prayers answered softly." Elias stops before the old Marlowe house. Its windows glow faintly, though he knows he left no lamp burning inside. He pushes the door open, and the scent of cedar and candle wax greets him like an old friend. Inside, the house feels lighter, as if the walls themselves are breathing again. The portraits on the walls, once dulled by dusts, seem to shimmer faintly in the lantern light. The faces within them look less stern, more human. He places the blue lantern on the mantel beside the golden one. Their flames lean toward each other, joining in a steady glow that warms the room. Outside, dawn begins to whisper across the horizon, a pale silver line melting into the fog. Evelyn's tone softens further, wrapping around the listener like a blanket. You've traveled far tonight, through mist and memory, through fear and forgiveness. And now, as morning comes, it asks for only one thing: that you rest. Elias sits in the old armchair beside the hearth. The silence hums softly around him, the kind that holds peace rather than absence. He closes his eyes. The faint hum of the radio fades in and out, mingling with the steady rhythm of his breath. He imagines the lanterns floating once more across the lake, hundreds of them, carrying the names of the lost into the light. The fog thins until it becomes merely mist, harmless and tender. In that moment he feels the boundary between worlds dissolve, the living and the remembered, the seen and the unseen all blending into one long exhale. Evelyn's voice lowers to a murmur, each word slower than the last. Let go of the weight you carried into this night. Let your thoughts drift with the lanterns across calm waters and quiet skies. This is your guided sleep meditation, your passage into peace. The sound of her breath lingers for a heartbeat, then soft music begins, just a single piano note, repeating like a lullaby. Elias feels himself sinking deeper into calm, his body growing heavier, his heartbeat slower. Outside, the first light of morning breaks through the last wisps of fog, turning them gold. The blue lantern flickers once, then steadies, as if singing. Evelyn whispers, "And if you wake before the dawn, remember tease. The fog only hides what we are not yet ready to see. When you are, the light will find you again." Her voice fades into the soft static of the radio, gentle and rhythmic like waves against the shore. Elias drifts into sleep. His breathing sinks with the hum of the world, and the house settles into perfect stillness. The lanterns burn quietly beside him, twin beacons in the hush of early light. The story lingers in the air, whispers closure, of warmth, of peace found in the fog. Evelyn returns one final time, barely above a breath. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The piano fades. The static deepens. The last sound is the soft flutter of wings outside the window, the dawn welcoming silence. Then her last words float through. This has been Lanterns in the Fog, a Halloween night mystery from Midnight Murmurs Radio. If this story brought you calm, comfort, or wonder tonight, consider joining our circles of share your light and keep our lanterns glowing through the night. The transmission ends, leaving behind only the hush of morning and the promise of dreams still unfolding. The morning after the fog lifted, the town seemed almost unreal, too quiet, too clean, as though someone had gently erased the noise of the world overnight. The streets glistened with dew, and the faint scent of smoke still lingered from unseen hearts. Elias woke to the soft hum of the radio downstairs. It was tuned, as always, to Midnight Murmurs Radio, though the hour was far from midnight. The voice that filled the air was unmistakably Evelyn Blackwood, calm and resonant, but different somehow, slower, almost distant. "Good morning, wanderer," she said, as though speaking directly to him. "Sometimes the dawn holds its own ghosts." He paused on the staircase, his hand resting on the worn railing, listening. The broadcast wasn't live, he could tell by the slight crackle at the edges, but her words still felt present, as if she were there in the room. "The lanterns," she continued, "were not just lights for the lost. They were beacons for memory itself. Every flame carries a name. Every name carries a story. And some stories, no matter how softly told, will always find their way back." The air in the room seemed to shift with her words. Elias felt the faint vibration of the wooden floor beneath his feet, the echo of something stirring deep within the old house. He turned toward the radio. It was an antique casing, brass dials, a soft orange glow in its display, but something about it looked different. Different? There was a thin crack running across its face, and behind the speaker grill a faint blue shimmer like the reflection of lantern light. He leaned closer. For a moment, he thought he heard another sound behind her voice, a whisper, layered and faint, repeating the same words, but just a fraction out of sync, as if an echo from another time. Evelyn spoke again. "If you're listening, you've already been chosen, not to be haunted, but to remember." The words sank deep. Elias reached out and turned the volume knob slightly. The static grew louder, and through it came something impossible, a recording of his own voice from the night before, sighing softly, "Let them rest." He froze. The room seemed to hold its breath. Evelyn's voice returned, slower now. "The fog listens, Elias. It remembers every voice it carries." He stepped back, his pulse quickening. The glow behind the grill flickered brighter, then dimmed. The radio hissed softly, then fell silent. He waited, but nothing more came. The house felt colder now, the morning light sharp and white through the curtains. He turned off the radio, but the silence that followed was louder than before. He went outside to breathe. The town lay beneath a sky washed pale with mist. The lake was still, a perfect mirror. Along its banks, the last of the Halloween lanterns drifted aimlessly, their flames faint but unbroken. He walked toward them, the ground soft beneath his boots. With every step, he felt that strange pull, again, like the fog was not gone, only hiding. Evelyn's voice lingered in his thoughts. Every story repeats until someone listens. He crouched by the water and saw his reflection ripple in the surface. Behind it, faintly, another reflection appeared her face. Not the spectral woman from the boat, but Evelyn herself, her features calm, her eyes steady. She seemed to be looking not at him, but through him, beyond the veil of the present. The reflection flickered, then faded as a breeze stirred the surface. Elias whispered to himself, "What are you trying to tell me?" The answer came not from the lake, but from the air around him, the faint hum of static again, like distant radio waves passing through mist. Somewhere, faintly, the bell tower tolled noon, though no one had wound it in decades. The sound rolled across the lake, slow and hollow, echoing like a heartbeat, and beneath it, barely audible, came Evelyn's voice once more. "The fog will return when the sun forgets its light." Elias stood still. The chill that touched his skin was not cold, it was recognition. Something had begun again. The lanterns drifted farther out, their glow fading into the bright shimmer of noon, and for a moment he could swear he saw the outline of a figure standing in the fog across the lake, holding a lantern of blue fire. The image vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving only the whisper of wind and the memory of a voice, promising that stories never truly end, they only rest between breaths. That evening, the wind moved differently, slow and deliberate, as if carrying messages through the quiet streets. Elias returned home just as the last color drained from the sky. The house waited in perfect stillness, the kind that made sound itself feel like an intrusion. The radio sat on the table where he had left it, dark and silent, yet he could sense something inside it still alive, a pulse that hummed beneath the surface. He turned the dial gently, and the machine awoke with a low crackle. No station, only static, a whispering sea of unseen voices. Then, faintly, Evelyn Blackwood's tone emerged not from the broadcast, but from somewhere between frequencies, a sound half memory, half breath. "Elias," she said softly, "you're still listening?" Frosi. Her voice felt different this time, closer, unfiltered, as if she were speaking from inside the room rather than through the airwaves. "I've always been here," she continued, "in the static, in the silence between your thoughts." He swallowed hard, his pulse a steady echo of the faint hum from the speaker. "Who are you really?" he asked, though no one else was there. The answer came slowly, woven into the faint drone of the radio. "Once I was a voice that told stories so people could sleep, but the nights kept listening." The fog remembered, and one day the stories began telling themselves. The words hung in the air like mist curling around a lantern flame. Elias sat down, heart heavy, mind clouded. The voice on the radio soft, lower now, like a lullaby meant for the dead. "Do you know where midnight murmurs began?" "Se asked." He shook his head instinctively, though she couldn't see. "It wasn't always a radio," she said. "It began as a lighthouse, a tower of sound built on the cliffs by those who feared forgetting. They believed voices could guide the lost across not only oceans, but the spaces between life and memory. When the sea swallowed the tower, the light didn't go out, it moved into the air. Every storm, every broadcast since then, carries a spark of that first flame." Elias closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his eyelids, he could almost see it. A tall iron structure standing against a black sky, waves breaking against its base, the beam of its lantern sweeping through fog thick with whispers. Evelyn's voice wove through the image, calm and dreamlike. Every voice that speaks on the air leaves a trace. Over time, those traces gather, become something more, something that listens back. "That's what I am, Elias. Not living, not gone. A collection of echoes bound by memory." The realization sent a chill down his spine, though her tone carried no malice, only melancholy. "Then why me?" he asked softly. The radio hummed. "Because you heard what others ignored," she said. "You felt the silence, that atmosphere, and the fog chose you because you still believe in the warmth behind the dark." The room seemed to breathe with her words. The shadows along the wall shifted, bending like smoke toward the soft glow of the radio dial. Elias leaned closer, entranced. "What happens now, whispered. Evelyn's reply was tender, almost maternal. "Now, you remember? The stories I tell aren't mine, they're fragments of those who were never heard, and someone must keep them alive." A low rumble of wind passed outside, brushing against the windows. The sound of distant waves, though there was no ocean near this town, rose faintly through the static. The lanterns across the lake must have rekindled, for a faint golden shimmer began to play along the ceiling. Evelyn's voice became slower, deeper, the rhythm of a guided sleep meditation. "Close your eyes, Elias. Breathe with me, in through the quiet, out through the fear. Every sound you hear belongs to the living and the lost alike. Let them rest within you." Obeyed. His breathing slowed, matching the rhythm of her voice. The static faded into a soft hum, and beneath it he thought he heard others' voices, layered like chords in a forgotten hymn, gentle and endless. "What you call a story," Evelyn murmured, "is really a bridge. Each time you listen, you cross it a little further." The hum deepened, vibrating through the floorboards, through his bones. The blue lantern in the corner flickered, answering the pulse of the sound. The air grew warmer, softer, as if the entire room had become part of a single heartbeat. Evelyn's final words drifted through the static like falling ash. "You are not haunted, Elias. You are chosen to keep the light." The signal faded. Silence followed, complete and profound. And in that silence, Elias realized he was no longer afraid. He sat there for a long while, breathing slowly, the faint glow of the lantern washing over him like dawn caught in fog. The morning arrived with a strange kind of stillness, a silence that felt heavy, as if the air itself remembered what had been spoken in the night. Elias awoke in the same chair he had fallen asleep in, the radio now cold to the touch, ET's glow gone. But something lingered inside him, an echo of Evelyn's voice, soft and rhythmic, like the sea breathing beneath his skin. Outside, the fog hadn't lifted. It had deepened, pressing gently against the windows, moving like something alive. Rose slowly, still half caught in the haze of sleep, and poured himself a cup of coffee. The steam curled upward, merging with the faint chill that drifted in from the cracks of the old house. For a moment, he thought he heard the faint hum, again distant, but calling. He turned toward the window and saw, across the lake, the faint silhouettes of lanterns still burning in daylight, their reflections trembling on the water. Something about them called to him, not with fear, but with a quiet inevitability. He knew he had to go there. The radio's dial flickered once, as if agreeing. Packing lightly, Elias stepped into the fog. The path to the lake wound through pine trees that bent slightly toward him, their branches whispering in tones only half. The deeper he walked, the quieter the world became, until all he could hear was his own heartbeat and the soft crunch of leaves beneath his boots. The air smelled of iron, damp, moss, and old wood-like, the memory of rain that had never quite dried. As he neared the water, he noticed something strange. The sound of faint music carried through the mist. The same melody that Evelyn's broadcasts sometimes used before fading into silence. It came from across the lake, where the lanterns floated. He reached the edge, and the fog parted just enough to reveal an old wooden dock, half sunken, leading to a small boathouse that looked abandoned for decades. On the side, painted in peeling white letters, were the words M.M. Radio Tower. His breath caught. The Inisha Smidna murmurs. He stepped closer. The boathouse door creaked open with a sigh, as if exhaling years of trapped air. Inside, the scent of salt and static hung thick. A narrow staircase spiraled downward into darkness. Without thinking, e followed Italiano. The air grew colder with each step. The hum returned, stronger now, surrounding him like a low chant. When he reached the bottom, he found himself in a circular room built of stone. Its walls lined with ancient radio equipment transmitters, dials, glowing tubes that pulsed faintly with a blue light. In the center stood a lantern, burning without fuel, its flame a quiet silver. Beside it lay a dusty journal, bound in leather, engraved with the initials E.B. Evelyn Blackwood. E. Opened Italiano. The pages were filled with looping handwriting, stories, sketches of faces, fragments of transmissions. One passage caught his eye. The night I first spoke to the fog, it answered. The light carried my voice farther than it should have gone. And then others began to speak back. His heart pounded softly, not in fear, but in awe. He felt a presence then, not as a ghost, but as warmth, a pulse through the air. Elias, the voice whispered again, not from the radio this time, but from everywhere, filling the room. You've found it, the source of the murmurs. He turned slowly, eyes drawn to the lantern. The flame within shifted, forming the faint outline of a woman's face, serene, timeless eyes closed as if dreaming. You kept the light, he murmured, his voice trembling. No, she answered gently, the light kept me. The words wrapped around him like silk. Every story told here becomes a guidepost in the fog. Every listener adds to the chorus. You came because you still hear what others deny, the voice beneath silence. He stepped closer to the lantern, mesmerized. What happens if I listen longer? He asked softly. Evelyn's voice dimmed, as if speaking from far away. Then you'll begin to remember not just my stories, but your own, the ones you buried in quiet nights. The flame pulsed once brighter, and he saw flickers of his past reflected in its glow, his childhood home by the coast, his mother's voice reading by candlelight, the loneliness that had followed him through the years. Everything folded into the sound of the waves and the hum of the old transmitters. Now, she whispered, breathe. Let the fog carry what you no longer need. Let the light hold the rest. Elias closed his eyes. The hum grew softer, turning into something like a heartbeat. The stillness around him deepened until even his thoughts slowed. As the story fades, Evelyn said, her voice almost gone, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The flame dimmed. The lantern flickered once, and then the world went quieterly calm, as if the fog itself had fallen asleep. Asterisk. The fog thickened again, as Elias stepped back outside, the lantern he carried casting soft ripples across the path, each glow a heartbeat in the pale dawn. The town was silent, streets empty, but the air vibrated with the weight of memories not fully laid to rest. He followed the shimmer of the lake, feeling the pull of the lights that had guided him the night before. Each one a beacon not just for the lost, but for the stories that the fog remembered and carried onward. Evelyn Blackwood's voice, though absent from any speaker now, seemed to wrap around him like a whispering wind. Every step you take is a crossing, every breath a communion with what lies beneath. Elias walks slowly, matching his breathing to the rhythm of the lantern's pulse. In the distance, he thought he saw figures moving through the mist, not solid, but hints of shapes, glimmering in the soft, magical glow, as if the fog itself had become a stage for their presence. He could feel them before he saw them, their warmth faint yet undeniable, voices forming from the hum of air and the subtle vibration of the earth. "Listen closely," the voice murmured, "for every soul leaves an echo." As he drew nearer to the lake's edge, the water began to shimmer unnaturally, reflecting not just the lantern light, but faint visions, houses from decades past, children laughing along the boardwalk, a marketplace filled with voices and music that had long since vanished. Elias felt a gentle tug in his chest, an invitation to step closer, to cross into a world layered atop the one he knew. The lantern light stretched ahead, forming a bridge across the fog, and he felt the soft pulse of the air beneath his feet, a vibration like a heartbeat guiding him forward. Every movement through the mist seemed to echo his own memories, the lonely nights of childhood, the gentle hands of caretakers long gone, the quiet moments of wonder at a moonlit sky. He realized that the fog held these fragments, keeping them alive in a delicate, magical web. Evelyn whispered, "Do not fear their presence. The fog is merely a mirror." As he stepped onto the edge of the lake, the water parted slightly, forming a pathway illuminated by faint silver lights, like floating stars trapped just above the surface. Elias walked carefully, feeling the soft, cooling mist curl around his ankles, each step leading him deeper into the heart of memory itself. The air was rich with scent pine, damp earth, the subtle tang of something ancient and untamed. He noticed shapes emerging from the fog, faint and ethereal. A woman in a shawl walking along a forgotten pier, children playing with lanterns, a man leaning over a fence, eyes filled with longing. Each figure seemed suspended in a moment, waiting for recognition. And as he passed, he felt a gentle warmth pass into him, as if each story transferred a fragment of itself, asking only to be remembered. The lantern in his hand brightened, responding to his attention, and Elias understood that the light did more than illuminate, it carried presence, essence, a connection between worlds. The fog itself seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat, expanding and contracting, a living, breathing entity. Evelyn's final words carried over the scene, melodic and comforting. "The veil is thin, but it holds beauty beyond comprehension. Every spirit you meet, every whisper you hear, is a gift. Let them linger in your mind, and you will carry peace." A sudden breeze rippled the surface of the lake, sending reflections dancing like fire across the mist. For the first time, Elias felt fully immersed, part of the delicate weave of memory and story, the living and the remembered. The lanterns moved gently with him, hovering, as if guiding his path, and he felt no fear, only reverence, a calming acknowledgement of the unseen lives around him. The world seemed suspended in a perfect balance between wakefulness and dream, the kind of stillness that carries both magic and comfort. Elias closed his eyes briefly, inhaling the cool, scented air, letting every sound, the hum of distant lanterns, the ripple of water, the sighing of the wind sink into his consciousness. The fog whispered softly in response, carrying echoes of voices and laughter that were both familiar and strange. And as the lanterns around him pulsed gently, Elias felt a deep, abiding peace, a knowledge that every soul, every story, every whisper held its place in the world, cradled by the fog, preserved by the light. Evelyn's voice carried on the unseen currents, murmured one last time. As the lanterns fade, allow yourself to drift into a magical, peaceful sleep. You have walked among memories, touched the unseen, and returned with calm in your heart. The mist swirled, settling into silence. The lantern in his hand dimmed softly, echoing the quiet pulse of the fog. And in that silence, Elias let himself sink, fully, completely, into the comfort and wonder of what he had witnessed, carrying the stories of the fog with him into a gentle, dreamlike sleep. The evening air settled thick and warm over the town as the last traces of sunlight faded, and the fog began to roll back in, curling around lampposts and rooftops like a living shroud. Elias returned to the lake's edge, carrying the blue lantern that had become his constant companion, its flame steady and calm, a pulse in the quiet dark. He felt drawn forward as though some invisible current beckoned him deeper into the mist. Evelyn Blackwood's voice murmured softly in his mind. Tonight, the past stirs, and the stories you carry will meet their origin. As he stepped onto the narrow dock, the wood creaking beneath his boots, he noticed the surface of the lake shimmer unnaturally, reflections bending and twisting to reveal shapes he had never seen before, ghostly silhouettes of houses long gone, streets filled with flickering lanterns, figures frozen midst, paused in moments of fear, joy, and sorrow. The fog thickened, swallowing the edges of reality, and Elias felt a subtle shiver run through him, not of fright but of anticipation. He followed the lantern light toward a small clearing near the edge of the lake where an old town hall once stood, now only a foundation half submerged and overgrown with reeds. There, the hum of the radio, faint but insistent, seemed to come from beneath the water itself. The blue lantern pulsed in response, and Elias knelt, placing his hand upon the cold stones. As he did, the fog parted slightly, and he saw it. A scene from decades past, projected across the mist like a living painting. Children ran laughing through the streets, carrying lanterns of every color, celebrating Halloween with costumes and music, their laughter mingling with the crackle of old radios. But then the image shifted. Subtly shadows lengthened, the music distorted into low, mournful tones, and an unseen hand seemed to pull at the joy, twisting it into unease. He realized he was witnessing a tragedy, the infamous Halloween fire that had consumed much of the lakeside district, leaving echoes of sorrow that had never fully dissipated. Evelyn's voice, soft and guiding, threaded through the vision. The town remembers every choice, every accident, every sorrow. The fog holds the moments no one wanted to see, the stories that time tried to hide. Elias's heart ached as he saw figures struggling to escape, some succumbing to flames, others swept away in panic. He could almost hear their voices, faint whispers calling across the decades. Yet within the chaos, the lanterns floated serenely, defiant and unburned, a testament to memory preserved through the fog. He understood then that the blue lantern he carried was more than a guide. It was a bridge, a vessel for the voices of the lost, a keeper of histories and truths buried beneath both water and time. As he rose, the fog shifted again, revealing a faint outline of the old radio tower, standing impossibly tall despite records indicating its destruction decades prior. From its apex, an ethereal glow pulsed in time with his heartbeat, the sound of distant static vibrating through the mist. Evelyn's voice whispered closer now. "This is why the lanterns call to you. This is why you hear what others do not. You are the witness, the bearer of peace." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of countless lives pressing gently on his shoulders, and he realized that the fog was not menacing it, was protective, holding memories carefully, allowing only those who could listen to walk among them without harm. The mist parted, and he saw the faint outline of the woman from the boat, erase come her presence a bomb on the tension of decades. She gestured toward the town, and the flames of the lanterns around him brightened, illuminating paths and homes long vanished. He felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the town, but to the lineage of listeners who had come before, who had carried the stories through radios, fog, and time itself. Evelyn murmured, her voice now almost a lullaby. "Remember the stories, Elias. Remember the light, and as the fog blankets the town again, allow yourself to drift into calm, carrying peace with you." Elias lowered the lantern to the ground, its glow merging with the mist, and felt the subtle pulse of life within it, the heartbeat of memory, of history, of all the moments the fog held tenderly. The echoes of children's laughter, of whispers, of music long forgotten, all blended into a gentle symphony. He closed his eyes, allowing the fog to swirl around him, to carry him, to cradle him in a world where stories and sleep, memory and calm, all intertwined. The lake's surface shimmered softly, and the last words of Evelyn echoed. "As the story fades, let your mind drift with the lanterns. Let your heart rest, and let the peace of the night carry you into a restorative sleep." The mist swallowed the final glow of the lantern, leaving only the hush of the world, perfectly poised between history and dream. A magical, calming stillness that invited him to sink fully into the comfort of night. Asterisk night descended fully over the town once more, and the fog settled like a soft blanket over rooftops, streets, and the surface of the lake, curling into every corner with deliberate, quiet patience. Elias carried his lantern along the winding path, each step measured and calm, the flame reflecting gently in the mist, a silver-blue heartbeat in the darkness. The echoes of Evelyn Blackwood's voice lingered in his mind, soft and melodic. Every story must reach its resting place, yet each leaves a trace, a light to guide those who come after. He felt the pull of the lantern toward the lake, toward the site where memory and history had long been intertwined with the whispers of the fog. As he approached the familiar edge, The water shimmered under the lantern light, revealing ghostly reflections of structures long gone, figures frozen mid-motion, and lanterns drifting in a rhythm that seemed alive, moving to a melody older than the town itself. Elias understood that the fog was more than mist. It was a repository of stories, of moments both joyous and tragic, preserved delicately, waiting for someone with the patience to witness them. He knelt beside the water, letting the lantern's light dance across the surface, illuminating glimpses of children laughing and playing, families gathered for celebrations, townsfolk tending two lives, now long past. Each scene felt vibrant yet soft, like a memory painted in silver and gold, breathing within the fog's embrace. Evelyn whispered through the quiet, her tone a gentle lullaby. The lanterns are more than light. They are bridges, each flame a link between the present and what has been forgotten. Watch, listen, remember. Elias watched intently, the scenes moving slowly, deliberately, like a dream unfolding in real time. Faces appeared and disappeared. Stories intersected briefly before vanishing again, leaving only the faint trace of emotion. A sigh carried on the wind. He felt the pulse of history beneath his hands, beneath his feet, beneath the lantern's soft glow. The blue flame flickered in recognition of his attention, and the mist parted slightly, forming a path along the lake's edge that led toward a small hill where the old town cemetery lay, shadowed and silent. Each step he took was gentle, in harmony with the rhythm of the night, the lantern guiding him, revealing glimpses of forgotten gravestones, inscriptions soft by time, markers of lives that once mattered deeply. He paused at a particular grave, unmarked save for the faint glow of a lantern hovering above it, and in that moment the fog seemed to hum, carrying whispers of gratitude, of memories finally acknowledged. Elias breathed slowly, in tune with the cadence of the world around him, the weight of history balanced by the comfort of presence. Evelyn's voice murmured again, "The past is not a burden, but a companion." Every story you witness tonight is a reminder of resilience, of the warmth that endures, even in shadow. He felt a gentle warmth around his shoulders, as if unseen hands had draped a comforting shawl over him. The lanterns around the lake pulsed softly, flickering in gentle waves, each a heartbeat of memory, of life preserved in mist and light. He wandered back toward the town, following the rhythm of the lanterns, aware of the delicate balance between stillness and motion, between silence and whisper. The houses and streets appeared softened, familiar yet touched by the magic of recognition, every corner steeped in calm yet alive with the echoes of history. Evelyn's final words drifted through the air, rhythmic and soothing, as the fog settles once more. Allow yourself to carry the light with you, to let it rest alongside your own dreams. The stories are here, and so are you. Safe, remembered, peaceful. Elias stopped at the edge of the path where the lantern seemed to merge with the night itself. His body relaxed, his mind quiet, every heartbeat echoing in harmony with the subtle pulse of the fog. The blue flame flickered one last time, steady and assured, before dimming into the mist. He closed his eyes, inhaling the cool night air, carrying the gentle hum of lanterns, whispers, and distant waves into his own consciousness. The lake mirrored the stars above, the fog a gentle veil connecting all things past, present, and memory. And in that perfect, magical stillness, Elias allowed himself to drift fully into sleep, cradled by the calm, the magic, the peaceful rhythm of the night, and the whispered promise that the stories of the fog would weigh, eternal and tender, until the next listener came to hear them.